I never imagined I'd find myself in a situation where I'd write something like this myself. I spent hours reading stories in the style of Am I the One to Blame, judging other people's actions from behind a screen, assuring myself I'd never act so heartlessly. But here I am, the person I've become after all this. I barely recognize him in the mirror. My sister, Olivia, passed away 3 months ago. She was only 30 years old. A car accident, a drunk driver ignored the stop sign. It happened instantly. The doctors assured us she didn't feel a thing. Death came right away. But her little one, her daughter Grace, survived. She was just 7 months old at the time. Now my whole family, parents, distant relatives, even Olivia's friends, expect me to take her in. Raise her as my own. Become the hero uncle. And I can't. I just can't. So here I am turning to strangers online. Am I a monster for refusing? Olivia and I were inseparable as kids. Like a typical older brother-younger sister pair. I'm 4 years older, and she followed me everywhere. We built forts out of pillows, shared secrets, covered for each other in front of our parents. But as we grew older, everything changed. Our family was far from ideal, to put it mildly. Dad was harsh, emotionally distant, the type who sees showing feelings as a sign of weakness. Mom, a fragile woman. She tried to keep the peace, but often ended up crying in the bathroom, thinking no one could hear her. Olivia always clashed with Dad. He didn't like her independence, too loud, too stubborn, too like her mother. They argued endlessly during her teenage years. I tried to mediate, but sometimes I sided with Dad to avoid his outbursts of anger. Now I regret that more than anything in the world. When Olivia turned 20, she left home. No note, no call, just vanished. Mom was devastated. Dad said almost nothing. For 5 years, we got rare postcards from different places. New York, Paris, Berlin, as if she was proving her freedom. No details about her life. No mentions of partners, work, or friends. Just, I'm fine, hope you are too. Then suddenly, she showed up at my doorstep. It was past midnight. She looked exhausted, thinner, scared. And pregnant. I stood in the doorway, speechless, trying to process what I was seeing. She didn't give me a chance to react. She said right away, "Please, no questions. I just need a place to stay for a bit." I let her in. Of course I did. She was my sister. She stayed with me for about 4 weeks. Not a word about who the father was. No explanations about where she'd been all those years. When I gently asked, she just smiled and said, "It's complicated, but I'll figure it out. Everything's under control." Then one morning, she was gone. Just a note on the table. "Don't worry about me. I'll manage, I promise." That was the last time I saw her alive. 3 years later, she messaged Mom on social media. She was back in our town with a child. Said she was ready to rebuild family ties. Mom cried all day from that message. Dad stayed silent, just grumbled something like Olivia's finally grown up. We planned to meet for dinner the following weekend. I was even excited, nervous but excited. So much time had passed. I bought a little teddy bear for the baby, Grace. And then the accident happened. She was on her way to that meeting. The police said it was instant. Mom screamed when she heard it over the phone. Dad, for the first time in my life, I saw tears on his face. We rushed to the hospital, and there was Grace. Tiny, vulnerable, sleeping in an incubator, unaware that her world was shattered. I looked at her, and inside me raged a strange mix. Sadness, rage, guilt, but also something else. Responsibility. Mom asked right there in the hallway. "You'll take her, right? You're all she has left." At first, I didn't know what to say. How do you react when your reality crumbles? I said, "We'll figure it out." And for a while, I believed it. We arranged the funeral, sorted through her things, talked to social services. It turned out Olivia hadn't listed the father on the birth certificate. No emergency contacts, No partner, nothing. Everything was in chaos, but one thing was clear. Grace needed a guardian. Mom wanted to take her, but she's over 70, and her health is failing. Dad stayed silent, which in hindsight should have alarmed me. Everyone just assumed I'd step in. That it was the only right thing to do. But then something happened that turned everything upside down. I was going through Olivia's things in her apartment. Mostly clothes, books, old photos. She rented a modest place, cozy, tidy, with baby toys scattered around. It seemed like she'd finally found stability. In one of the drawers, I found a little box. Inside, baby mementos, Grace's hospital bracelet, ultrasound pictures, a lock of hair, and a USB drive. Out of curiosity, I plugged it into the computer. There were photos, hundreds. Most of them Grace, smiling, sleeping in swaddling clothes. But one made me freeze. Olivia with a man. They were sitting in some cottage or hotel room. She was clearly far along in her pregnancy. And the man's. I went numb. Because it was our father. At first, I thought it was a hallucination. Maybe an old photo, maybe I was imagining it. But I opened the next one, his hand on her belly. Another, a selfie with a kiss. I flung the laptop away. My hands were shaking so badly that my breathing faltered. I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone. I checked the dates. They matched the time she stayed with me 3 years ago. The exact period when she was secretive and scared. That's when it hit me. That's why she ran away. That's why she was silent about the child's father. That's why she didn't come back. It wasn't a secret admirer. It was him. That night I sat in the dark, trying to gather my thoughts. Every childhood episode flashed in my memory. His anger, his control, his coldness toward her. All those times he yelled at her for disrespect. Now I understood. It wasn't parenting. It was guilt, shame, control. And Mom, did she know? Suspect. I didn't sleep a wink. In the morning, Mom called, asking how things were. She sounded optimistic, chattering about Grace, about preserving the family. And all I could think was, how can you say that when the family is rotting from the inside? I didn't tell her about the discovery. Not yet. Because I wanted to find out if she knew. That's when everything started falling apart. And that's when I doubted everything. My family, my principles, my sanity. Because how do you raise a child who's your niece and your half-sister? I couldn't get those photos out of my head. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dad's face next to hers. Not a fatherly grin, but something else, intimate, almost tender. It made me sick. I convinced myself I was wrong. That maybe it wasn't what it seemed. That it was a stupid collage or coincidence. But the deeper I dug into my memories, the clearer it became. It was all right there, I just ignored it. In childhood, Dad was always weird with Olivia. Not in a way that was immediately obvious. He didn't touch her in public, didn't say nasty things. He just kept her under strict control. Who were you walking with? Why did you wear that skirt? You don't need to chat with those guys. He never said that to me. With me, he was indifferent but steady. With her, irritably obsessive. I remember when she came home late, she was about 16. He didn't yell. He just stood at the entrance and stared. For a long time. Without words. So long that even Mom said, "William, enough, you're scaring her." And he replied, "If you watched yourself, she wouldn't have to be afraid." I didn't get it back then, but now every word cuts deep. Olivia started staying at friends' houses more often. Sometimes for 2 or 3 nights in a row. I thought it was teenage rebellion. Now I think she was escaping. Once when I was 18, I asked Mom, "Why does he always pick on Olivia specifically?" She sighed, because she's too sensitive. He just doesn't want her to repeat my mistakes. I didn't understand what mistakes she meant back then. Now I guess I do. After the funeral, I couldn't look at Dad calmly. He wandered the house like a ghost, gloomy, silent. But when he looked at Grace's crib, something boiled inside me. I decided to confirm it. I took a DNA test. Officially, for the paperwork, for custody services. In reality, I wanted the truth. I collected Dad's toothbrush, a strand of Olivia's hair from the memento box, and Grace's saliva from her pacifier. Took it to a private clinic. Waited 10 days. That decade felt like eternity. Every day I tried to act normal, but inside I was on the verge of exploding. At night, I went through old family photos. And now everything looked different. Olivia standing next to him, a bit distant. Me on the other side. Mom off to the side with a forced smile. In every frame, not a family but a facade. When the results came, I didn't open the envelope right away. I sat with it on my lap, sipping cold tea. My fingers trembled. Finally, I tore it open, and the first thing I saw, 99.9% probability of paternity between William K. and Grace O. as father and daughter. The world collapsed. Completely. I don't know how long I sat staring at the wall. In my chest, not rage, not agony, emptiness. As if I'd been hollowed out. I realized, now it's not just that I don't want to take the child. I can't. The next day, I went to Mom. She was sitting in the living room, drinking coffee and scribbling in a notebook, probably a to-do list. I placed the envelope in front of her. "What's this?" "Just read it." She opened it, scanned it. Her hand with the mug trembled, but there was no surprise. No scream, no questions. She quietly said, "I hoped you'd never find out." Those words hurt more than anything. "You knew?" I asked. "Yes." "For how long?" "From the beginning." It turned out it all started when Olivia was 17. Dad was helping her with studies before college. He told her she was special, that only he understood her. Mom found out a year later, catching them at night in the living room. The scene was so repulsive that she couldn't even describe it. But instead of leaving, she stayed. Because I didn't know where to go, and I didn't want to break the family. Those words are etched in my memory forever. She didn't want to break the family, but in the end, she broke everyone. I wanted to yell, to accuse, but I couldn't. It had all happened already. Olivia was gone. Dad was sitting downstairs, as if nothing had happened. That evening, I approached him. He was in his armchair, watching the news. I stood in the doorway and looked at the man I'd called father. "I know everything," I said. He didn't react. "I did the test. Grace is your daughter." He slowly turned off the screen, turned around. On his face, no guilt, no fear. "Just fatigue." "It's not your concern," he said evenly. It was a long time ago, and Olivia understood everything. Those words awakened a primal instinct in me. I stepped closer and yelled. She was a child, damn it. He didn't move, just smirked. "You don't understand, son. Life is more complicated than it seems." I hit him. Hard. He didn't defend himself, just wiped the blood from his lip and said, "If you want to destroy the family, go ahead, but think about the girl, she's innocent." From that day, I haven't set foot in that house. Mom tried calling, texting. Said, "Grace isn't guilty of anything, she needs you." And I couldn't. Every time I saw that child, I saw evidence of the hidden horror. She was a reminder not of my sister, but of violence, deceit, of how I failed to protect Olivia. Now everyone sees me as a monster. Relatives whisper, "He abandoned his sister's child." What a heartless guy. They don't know the truth. And honestly, I don't want them to. I just want this hell to end. I noticed how Rachel nervously twisted the bracelet on her wrist. Her eyes darted around, as if she was fighting with herself before forcing out what she came for. Michael, she finally said, please don't be angry. Olivia didn't want you to know. She was afraid it would destroy everything. My stomach twisted. What are you talking about, Rachel? Who is Grace's father? She looked down. For a few moments, silence hung in the room, broken only by my heavy breathing. It's your father, Michael, she whispered. Grace is his daughter. At first, the words didn't register. What did you say? I even chuckled, but it sounded hollow. Rachel, are you joking? This is a cruel joke. She shook her head. I wish it were. Olivia told me everything during her pregnancy. She didn't know what to do. He promised to help, kept saying no one could know. Shut up, it burst out of me. Just shut up. I stood up, feeling the ground slip away. My head pounded like a hammer on my temples. You're saying my father slept with my sister, the words barely came out, and they have a child. Rachel sobbed. Olivia was in a panic. She said it happened once. She was depressed, drinking, and he took advantage. She didn't know how to tell you. I walked to the window, staring into nowhere. Outside the glass, life buzzed, cars, pedestrians, streetlights, and inside me something died. My father, the one who taught me about courage, stood beside me at my ceremony, held my shoulder when I said goodbye to Olivia at the coffin. He is the father of her child. Anger, rage, disgust grew in me, and at the same time a nauseating guilt, because I had intended to adopt Grace, become a father, to my sister and father's child. My brain refused to accept it. Rachel, are you sure? I asked, grasping at straws that this was nonsense. She showed me letters, Michael. I saw them. He begged her to stay silent. She was afraid of breaking the family. A chill ran down my spine. Leave, I said dully. Just leave. She tried to add something, but I wasn't listening anymore. The world was spinning, a vacuum in my chest. When the door slammed, I sank to the floor. Tears streamed down my cheeks, though I didn't realize I was crying. I didn't know what I felt: betrayal, agony, disgust. All at once. That night I didn't sleep. Every word from Rachel echoed in my head like a broken record. It's your father, Michael. She was afraid of breaking the family. By dawn, I knew one thing: I needed to talk to him. I sat in the car for almost an hour and a half before getting out. My parents' house on a quiet suburban street with a neat garden and gray fence looked as always, only now it felt foreign. My hands shook as I knocked. Mom opened right away, in a robe with a cup of tea. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. Michael, unexpected, you didn't warn me. Is everything okay? I forced a smile. Mom, I need to see Dad, urgently. She frowned. He's in the garage, but Michael, you look awful. Have you eaten breakfast? Please, just call him. She nodded, puzzled, and left. A minute later, he appeared. My father, William. Strong with gray hair, that confident gaze. Only now, I didn't see in him the man I trusted. Michael, what's wrong? He asked. I was silent, just stared, feeling the storm approaching. We need to talk. My voice was hoarse, one-on-one. He nodded, sending Mom to the kitchen. We went out to the yard where it smelled of fresh grass and smoke. I didn't beat around the bush. I've learned the truth, I said, about Grace. He froze. What about what? Don't pretend, I stepped forward. I know you're her father. Silence. Long, deafening, as if the world held its breath. Dad paled, his hand trembled. Who told you? Rachel, the answer whipped. She knew. Olivia confided in her. He turned away, rubbed his face. Damn. Is it true? I approached. Tell me, is it damn true? He paused, then quietly, yes. One word. But it hit harder than a scream. You, my breathing faltered. You slept with my sister, your own daughter. Michael, please, he raised his hands, trying to calm me. It was a mistake. I don't know how it happened. A mistake, I yelled. A mistake is forgetting your keys, and you slept with your own daughter. He clenched his teeth but stayed silent. Olivia was not herself then. After losing grandma, depression, alcohol, I wanted to help, and then I lost control. Don't you dare blame her. I jabbed my finger into his chest. You're the adult, the head of the family. She's your daughter, damn it. He looked down. I know, and every day since I've despised myself. Despised? I laughed hysterically. And what should I feel? I was planning to adopt Grace, thought I'd preserve my sister's memory, and now I see this child is the fruit of your sin. He stepped closer, but I backed away. Michael, listen, I swore to make it right. I helped Olivia, supported her, paid for the birth, for Grace. I couldn't confess. I was afraid of losing the family. Family? I stepped closer, our faces almost touching. The family died the day you did it. We stood in silence. Only the wind rustled the leaves. Then I asked, Does Mom know? No, and you won't tell her. He raised a finger, his tone hardening. You won't ruin her life. Ruin? I almost laughed. You ruined everything. I won't keep your secret. He grabbed my shoulder. Michael, think Mom won't handle it. You'll finish her off. I shook off his hand. You know what's the worst? I whispered. When Olivia left, you stood by, said what a wonderful daughter she was, and I cried, not knowing you destroyed her. He turned away, and for the first time I saw tears on his face. I loved her, he said quietly. Not as a daughter, not as it should be. I fought the feelings, but they... Shut up, I whispered. Shut up before I do something bad. He fell silent, stood hunched as if he'd aged years. I turned and left. Passing Mom, she peeked out. Everything okay, honey? I forced a smile. Yes, Mom, just guy talk. And I left without looking back. At home, I turned on the shower and stood under the cold stream, trying to wash away everything I'd learned. In my mind's eye, Olivia, smiling, kind. Now every smile, every frame, was like a cry for help that I missed. I didn't know what to do. Tell Mom, destroy the remnants, or stay silent and go mad from this filth. That evening, I sat in front of a photo of Olivia and Grace. Grace, a copy of her sister, light curls, the same eyes. But now, knowing the truth, it hurt to look. I realized I couldn't be her father. Not because she's guilty, but because every glance at her would remind me of the betrayal. I picked up the phone, opened contacts, custody services. My fingers trembled. Hello, this is about adoption. I changed my mind. After the conversation with Dad, I barely slept. It didn't fit in my head how to live with this burden. I convinced myself that refusing custody was right, but my soul ached as if I'd betrayed Olivia again. On the fourth day, Mom called. Michael, dear, you haven't come by, haven't called. Is everything okay? I exhaled. Yes, Mom, just exhausted. Work, you know. She paused, then softly. Your father isn't well. After your talk, he's changed. What happened? I closed my eyes. My body tensed. I couldn't lie forever. Mom, I said finally, I need to come over, we'll talk. That evening, I stood at the threshold of my childhood home, feeling like a kid. Mom met me, worried, wary. What's wrong, Michael? I took a deep breath. Mom, I have to tell you something, it's nightmarish. She sat on the sofa silently, I across from her. My hands shook. It's about Olivia and Dad. She furrowed her brows, her lips paled. What about them? I clenched my fists. Olivia got pregnant not from a random guy. The child's father is Dad. For a second she stared, then laughed. Nervously, sharply. Michael, that's not funny. What nonsense. It's true, Mom, my voice trembled. He admitted it himself. The laughter faded. She paled, blood draining from her face. No, no, Michael, impossible. I quietly, I'm sorry. She jumped up as if struck. Where is he? Where's your father? I tried to hold her, but she was already heading to the door. At that moment, footsteps sounded in the hallway. Dad entered with a grocery bag. Saw us and froze. What's going on? Mom approached closely. Is it true? Her voice trembled. Michael said you did it with Olivia. Is it true? He froze, lowering his eyes. Susan. Answer. He exhaled. Yes. Everything collapsed. She slapped him across the face, then again. The bag fell, apples rolled. How dare you? How dare you, you monster? He didn't resist, just stood. No excuses, he whispered. It was once. Since then I've beaten myself up every day. Beaten up, she screamed. And now I have to live with this. Look at you and remember what you did to our daughter. I stood, unable to intervene. My childhood home filled with moans of pain, screams, and sobs. Dad left that evening, packed a few things, and said he wouldn't return. Mom locked herself in her room for almost 2 days. I was left with the feeling that I'd witnessed the death of the last part of the family. 10 days later, a letter came. No sender address, just an envelope. Inside, a short note. You did the right thing, Michael. Take care of Mom. Grace is innocent. W. I didn't know where he was, and I didn't try to find out. A few months passed. Custody services found a foster family for Grace. Sometimes reports came. She's growing, laughing, drawing. But I didn't dare visit. Every time I picked up a photo, my heart clenched. She an echo of adults' mistakes, and of how love can destroy and save. Mom took a long time to recover. Sometimes she asked, why didn't I see anything, Michael? She lived under our roof. I didn't know what to say. Some secrets hide deep until they burst out like poison. A year and a half later, I went to the cemetery. Stood at Olivia's grave with a bouquet of roses. The wind rustled in the treetops. The sun dipped toward sunset. I'm sorry, sis, I whispered. I couldn't become a father to your daughter, but I brought the truth to light. I laid the flowers and left, feeling like I'd left part of the pain there in the ground. And only one thing troubled me. Someday Grace will grow up and ask about her parents. And I didn't know if I could tell her the truth.